mas nunca levou. Saudade é dourada a corda.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Saudade Generation Tuga. Glad to have you guys on the podcast today listening. Today we have a guest from the West Coast, from Southern California, my good friend, Robert Ormonde da Artesia. Welcome to the podcast, Robert.
Bom dia, ou boa tarde.
Ou boa tarde em alguns lugares. É na Califórnia, bom dia. Aqui no Canadá é boa tarde. E ainda na terceira também é boa tarde. Então temos um bom caminho para todos. Thank you for, first of all, taking some time off your busy schedule coming on a podcast. Always a pleasure to have some friends, and especially guys that are involved in the culture like you are since you were a kid. So let's, straight off the bat, let these people know where are you from, where you were born. Some people were born here, some people were born there, and your parents, which freguesias they're from.
Well, I was born in, I was raised in Artesia, California, but technically Hawaiian Gardens was the hospital I was born in. So it was literally just down the street from where my parents lived. I currently live in Belmont Heights, Long Beach. It's fantastic out here. And my dad is from Biscoitus. He was born on the Biscoitus side, and then he moved over to Archuela.
Zaltage. Archuela já é de Zaltage.
Right. And then my mom's from Altage, Caveira dos Gatos.
So you were born in the States. So you were obviously the Artesia Hall was already around because it's over 100 years old. But were you right away involved? Were your parents involved in the community, in the hall, and all that? Were you going?
Yeah, absolutely. I was. First language was Portuguese. Oh. And you're right. Like everything was Portuguese. I was born in 1976. So I started to catch the immigration, the uphill, right after the 25 de Abril.
That wave.
There was a lot of uptick, and my upbringing coincided with, I feel like, the peak of Portuguese immigration and the strength of Artesia. I missed a little bit of it, obviously, just because when you're 1-2 years old, you don't remember. Yeah. But I do have a very good memory. And some of my very, very first and oldest memories is of Carnaval. The only memory I have of it is just my dad's clothes being on the couch. Right? And that was 1980. And that was approaching 4 years old. So I wasn't even 4 years old yet.
Wow.
I have that memory of the pants,
He was a dançarino or a mestre?
Ele ia de mulher.
Ele ia de mulher. Okay.
Always, in the beginning, he always went.
É uma personagem, fazia personagem.
All the time.
And so that's your first cultural memory there was Carnival.
That's the oldest I can remember.
And when did you, the first time you remember, watching one? Not seeing something, but watching, that you...
For sure, 1981, the next year, I have two very distinct memories. I know where I was sitting for Carnaval. My aunt and uncle like to sit up stage left. And I remembered a little bit more of that. I also remember very well after Carnaval, some dancers this was probably March, from Tulare. And at the time, the guy that was meshed was a very big time Carnaval meshed. His name was Adriano Mendes from Tulare, but he's from São Brás. And I just remember it was one of those very heartwarming dances, right? It felt right for the immigrants, and I remember where I was sitting. I remember sitting on my uncle's niece's lap, who was married to my tia Terzinha. And when the dances started, when those, they started jumping in the meshed, what is this? And I went to the front of the stage, and my mom always said that's where I always sat at the front of the stage. And so that dança stayed with me a lot.
And what was it? A bailinho? A dança de pandeiro?
It came with the dança de bailinho and a dança de pandeiro.
Okay.
It's like those old school dancers de pandeiro, right? With the hats.
Yes.
No, and it was highly flawed, for sure. you know, but it just hit home. it for some reason, the immigrants. And so my dad had a cassette, and that reinforced my memories of it. But for years, we didn't have video.
No.
Right. So I learned how to play pandeiro was with my ear, not with my ear and whatever came. And back then, there weren't a lot of dancers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I learned how to play pandeiro by ear. And my godmother had bought me this little Mickey Mouse tambourine from Disneyland. And I started playing. I have a picture of me with that pandeiro in cuecas. It's on my Facebook. Yeah, it's a Carnaval hat and some shirt, but in cuecas. And I had to have been 2 or 3 at the time or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And when do you remember your first time you participated?
Yes. So by 1982, I started remembering a lot more. I remember I held a flag for a dança that my dad went in, and it was a dança Fernando Sapateiro made, o Voint.
See?
He was living in Artesia. And so my dad was in the dança, and me, Mark Nunes, who's now in Tulare, Luis Nunes' son, and Danny Lima, who is the grandson of the famous cantador Gaiteada. I don't remember who the 4th kid was. We all, held a Portuguese and American flag. So I already started having more memories. I remember being like in Oakdale and just being kind of everybody's, when you used to go to, years ago, they used to have that monkey with the little bandage on there.
Yes.
Right? With a little organ grinder.
Yeah.
Do all that.
Yeah.
I have a distinct memory of being in Oakdale Hall, or it's probably Oakdale Hall, and like them bringing people backstage and them telling me to play pandeiro.
To watch you play pandeiro?
Like, hey, play pandeiro. And I'll be like, I was about 5 years old at that time. I had no idea. So, yeah, that's where all that kicked off for the next year, which was my first dance in 1983.
The first complete that you were in, that you participated 100%. That you were not only holding a bandeira.
Yeah, I was meshed.
You were meshed. Okay, and that was pandeiro right away. First hit.
Yeah.
Pandeiro. Wow. And you said you learned by hearing. So how would you put that into practice? Like, where would you go to 1, 2, 3, to go to the elbows, go to the knees? How would you know what how he was playing it?
I asked my parents years later. I said, well, like, my dad knew how to play Actually, he used to play really well pandeiro, and he knew how to do a little bit of that. But I asked him. I thought he was teaching me, and he said, no. You just one day you were just sitting there, pop, 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 and it just started happening. I think I have also a very good memory, as you can, right? Long term, my short term starting to go a little bit here, but and I remember.
You have a photographic memory, like you saw them playing, so it stayed in your mind.
Well, my mom, she also told me she suspected when I was a kid I had a photographic memory, but no, because I don't think that actually exists. I just have a very, very strong memory, and she would read me the cantiga, once or twice, and it would stay. And so what was interesting is once she mentioned she had a cassette, because I do remember my dad bought me a tape recorder, and my grandma would raise me or whatever. There were some days my dad worked nights, so I'd be in my room, and my toy was my pandeiro, my Ep12, and then my dad gave me a tape recorder, and they'd buy like cassettes, and I start recording myself. So my mom's uncle had one tape, and she had one. I didn't know about this. She told me about it, so when I found it, I grabbed it, and I went to go listen to it years later. I was probably like 4 years old there, and I was already, playing, and you could already hear that ting 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 ting, like the playing,
the rhythm,
and I'm speaking like a little greenhorn, right? And I'm saying cantigas, and my first cantiga I remember was one that my godmother told me of a dança my grandfather was in from 1936. Wow. And a lot of people from Altares know. Your dad probably knows it. The Brianda Pereira.
Sim, sim.
Right.
Já ouvi falar, yeah.
Eu sou Abrião da Pereira com forças no coração. Vou defender a terceira com a minha espada na mão. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm lembro.
and then you could hear that on the tape. And, and then I would just go into babble. And then, and the dance would be go from late to espada. And, I just get lost in my own imagination.
And how many years did this last where you were participating? Was this one group that you were participating in, or was it various groups at the beginning before you formed your own group?
No. So, like, it was my dad's group. And then that came about because my mom's uncle, José Catan, José Martins, but os apelidos é o José Catan.
Sim, o irmão do Joaquim Caetano da Teixeira, não é? Dos altares?
Well, we're related.
Okay, related. Okay.
Cousins. I don't know how the relation is right now.
But there's a relation, okay.
But yeah, he's like my mom's cousin. So there's relation there.
Okay.
We know that. He was going to Portugal in 1982 to Terceira, and he said, "Hey, you guys got to put this kid in a dança." And my dad was like, "No way."
Oh,
right, absolutely not. And I think my mom was more receptive to it, and just because, what are you going to do? You're going to put a little kid in a dança? Like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't think I would do it. I look at my niece, my goddaughter. She's 7. I think she could probably handle some of that, but my dad was always more skeptical, pulled back. My mom was always,
everything has its place and its time.
Right. Yeah, right, exactly. Everything has its place. So he went and he asked the Belta Costa to write an assumed, and initially I guess he turned him down, said, "Hey, I'm not writing for a 5-year-old kid." Right. It's kind of like, "You're crazy, what do you guys," right? So he told him, just write it, I'll pay you, and then don't worry about it. So he did, and then they had the assumed, and they just started, I guess, testing it out, right? Like, just, I guess, my mom teaching me the cantigas, and pretty much had them down. And so it became like my cousins were in the dança for the most part. All my first cousins that could speak better. We all spoke Portuguese. Or family friends who had kids that could speak very well. And so they got the kids together and they started rehearsing, and it was pretty obvious that we could probably do a little bit of a dança. And then I guess they took the show on the road.
And do you remember those as atuações from that dance? And
I have some memories on the bus trips for sure. I remember certain things. I remember being in Tularenguense when we went there. I remember being in Oakdale, but what I remember more was us playing in the yard.
Oh,
that's what I remember more. I don't know if my first memory performance that I have strongest was already the next year when I was 7 in Newark. The announcer was announcing, and I just walked out. But I thought I just walked out. Behind my dad. My dad was holding me back. I turned around, and I just thought, okay, it's time to go. And I went out. My dad's like, and then I, and I stood up beside and that's on video. But I have that faint memory. I do have a memory of being at the hall, and then them carrying me, and then people putting money in the chapelle. They took past my hat.
Yeah.
So I have that memory. But kind of everything else is hit or miss.
Yeah, some things here, some things there. You might remember pieces, bits and pieces. Because that's how I remember some things. Sometimes I'm telling stories, and people tell me, "Hey, it's not exactly like that. It happened, but it's pretty close." So, So, and how was it? How was Carnival in California back then? Is it how it is it now? 2 weekends? How would you do to make all these places?
So, Carnaval pretty much just started with no organization, just people making dances, right? And then just deciding to perform them. So the first dance, so there's 2 eras, right? There's I do have a photograph of a dança from the 1920s up in Mountain View that was done for Páscoa.
Oh.
Carnaval was already a lot different back then.
Mm-hmm.
1920s, there were no danças pandeiro. There were no danças were cantada.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
Yeah, and they were very simple, and they were all pretty much spiada, So, but I do have this picture outside of Mountain View. And I went around asking a lot of people about Carnaval. So there were danças being made out in that time, 20s, 30s, but like one-offs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There was no organization.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain View, San Leandro, possibly Tuleria or Los Banos. There was a guy named Chic Hoek. Can't remember his actual name. Borges Melu, I think it might have been his actual name. He was here, working the cows.
Mm.
They made a dance out here. Not sure if that was in Los Banos or Tulare,
Mm-hmm.
two areas he lived in when he was here in the 20s and 30s. And he's largely credited by having the first modern dança, even in Saudade.
Oh.
He's, according to the Dr. Orlando Bitão, I think was his name. And I have the book. It's just, I read it a long time ago. He was the first one to kind of give it structure, So the song was assumed despedida, and there were no despedidas. There were just like the song was actually like part of the assumed.
Oh.
It was kind of just telling you all. It was like the moda do assumed.
Okay, a apresentação do assunto.
Yeah, it was more like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an assumed, and then the despedida was like just cantigas about Carnaval. It wasn't a despedida. It was just like talking about, filhos de cascrão.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Wow.
I got some. So that was the thing. When I got a hold of a book of danças from altares, and I ended up giving the book to the daughter of, she's actually in Montreal, I believe, the daughter of the man who wrote them, Francisco Duarte, and he used to live in Montreal.
Yes, I know who he is.
Yeah, he passed away already.
Mm-hmm.
But they have that little cavern. But I made photocopies of it, and it's all handwritten. So when I was like reading these and studying, it was hard for me to understand what was going on. It took a while for me to understand. I started talking to people from altares at the time. I'm 50 now, so I was probably in my 20s, so 20 to 30 years ago, talking to these people who remembered those dancers, who were elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Then they explained to me how it all worked out.
Oh.
And now I was like, got it. And it was cool because at that time I was really into archiving the history of it. And many of them could remember cantigas, but because of the song.
Mm.
So I'd learn the song and the cantiga, go home, play on the mandolin. And then eventually, so I wouldn't forget it, I started putting it on sheet music. So I know the Moda of Don Denise from 1937. I can't remember it now, but I know I've got it somewhere.
Written the music sheet.
Yeah, the melody. Once I hear it, I'm off it. I can play it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I know that you were always interested in archiving and the history behind Carnaval. You've actually talked to my dad about this, and you were interested in some stuff, like you were very interested in the fact that he did a dança in Angola, which I think was the only one that was ever made. And where did you get this love or this interest in the history of the Carnaval?
Well, I think I'm as Portuguese as it gets, love, right?
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I love history. I love even U.S. history. I think it's just my mom used to have this photo book with all these cool pictures, and I have a very wild imagination, and I would look at those pictures. And my dad also had reel-to-reels, bobines.
Yes, bobines, Robin, yeah.
So once in a while he would play them. And then when I was young, I learned how to spool the machine. When he would be asleep, I wanted to listen. And I knew by the colors of the tapes which ones I wanted to listen to. And I tell him I want that dança. So my dad ended up being like a DJ. And then sometimes,
Yeah.
right? But I still have that love. I have reel-to-reel machines, and I've got a huge reel-to-reel archive, probably over 200 tapes.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm at the point where I don't know what to do with these things. It would probably be nice to have an online archive, searchable
Oh
archive.
yeah. Oh yeah,
But-
that would be nice. I think it would. A lot of people would be interested in going to look up these things.
Possibly. I think I'm wondering if the window is running out or has run out, just because the people who are still alive that know about that stuff, their generation's ending.
Yeah.
And so we're going to lose the archivability of this. We're
Mhm.
going to lose the people who are going to listen to something and say, "Opa, this guy was in it. This guy," like, it's hard. We need to have those
Somebody to tell these stories. Mhm.
So I started collecting pictures and, and scanning them, and then, just jotting down notes. In hindsight, I wish I had more skill and had jotted down more, but I jotted down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And, there hasn't been anyone else willing to carry that mantle a little bit. I got burned out on Carnaval.
Yeah.
No,
We've had this conversation before. Yes.
Yeah, I got burned out on it. I got burned out on all of this for a while. And just, maybe it was a bad thing, because me burning out on it, it left that archive in a closet. And I remember when I was interested, when I found out someone had something, I went to their house to get it. I want to get that, and I push for it a lot.
And now you feel like it's, like you said,
Now
put
it's
away in a closet.
Just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, it'd be nice if there was someone who's more technological, who had the pashova to transfer. I would get in on the act, but I feel like at this point in my life, it's, I got to pay my bills, not transfer tapes.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
The reality of life comes at you fast.
Yeah, and I feel like I've done a big part of the project. Maybe if I was there, if I lived in Portugal, for sure this would be a no-brainer, right? I'd bring all my machines with me, and look for government funding, and like get guys like you who are techie, and there's for sure a lot of people there who are techie.
Oh yes.
And say, all right, now we got 3 machines, let's roll tape, right? Just start recording this to digital, and then, writing it down and start that archive process.
The documentation, yes.
I had already done quite a bit.
And since you like all this stuff about history and Carnival, maybe you're the right person to have this conversation with. And it's a topic, polarizing. Yes, it is a bit polarizing, but I think it needs to be talked about, because the older generation need to look at it the way we look at it, which is evolution, which they didn't get to see. So let's get to it. Maybe you have an opinion that maybe can enlighten some people listening here. This whole thing about Carnaval tradicional, Carnaval moderno, or progressive, however you want to look at it. How do you see all these things, this gap, generational gap?
So, when I was younger, so for me, my heart, just to open up, is I like the traditional Carnaval.
Me too.
That's, but what I've realized is I think everybody enjoys the Carnaval they remember when they were adolescents.
Exactly.
That's what they think Carnaval Tradicional is, right? However, that's also my favorite era, and there's a lot of romanticism with it, Mudança no Caminho. I've seen it in some tapes, and I've seen it, I've seen it in pictures. It's pretty cool. I think it is pretty cool, a dancer showing up and they perform, no terreiro, and the people just kind of go around it and, watch, or whatever, kind of like you watch a Marcha São João.
Yep.
So when you see a Marcha São João and the people are up, that's really what dancers were like in the old days. Because Carnaval, I'm a little shaky here, but, Carnaval probably comes out of that tradition. You can see it, right? Duas aulas. And so, Marcha São João are that way, Carnaval's that way, Ranchins are that way.
Yep.
you know, and then the steps, you can see where the steps of Carnaval come from. Those are just regular steps. And sooner or later, you know, those people have to entertain themselves. So from what my understanding is, that danças started in the summer, but I'm talking like hundreds of years ago, right? The Jesuits and, you know, and the church, because this all comes from the Catholic celebrations, and, you know, there's a lot of mix too, people don't realize. There's a lot of European influence and a lot of Brazilian influence, because the Azores, especially Terceira, being Angra, was kind of like, at that time, you know, it was a stopover for a lot of ships.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of international. So Terceira was always kind of moving. Just people didn't realize, especially out in the freguesias.
Yeah.
You know, you're out there, so you're not realizing what's moving in the city.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So, and then according to that book by Orlando Proteão, and I have another copy, I can let you borrow it.
Mm.
It started backwards, right? These traditions, and then, you know, and we can kind of see that in our communities where we're like, when you're first starting out and you need something for that epic to entertain people, the danças started rolling back to Corpus Christi, which I think Corpus Christi. I'm not familiar with that, but that was sometime in April. So now what? And then it rolled to Easter. And then because Easter was the end, technically, of, you know, introit, which is Intrug, they decided to go
at the beginning of it,
the Carnaval. And interestingly, Páscoa eliminated, you know, ended. It just kind of got isolated there. And I'm wondering now that I'm saying this, if it isolated there just simply because by the time you get to Easter, you now have the bulge. So wrestlers are starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
But in February, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got Hanshinj and all that. So maybe Carnaval, this is just my personal opinion, maybe Carnaval stopped there because there was just nothing going on the island at that time.
At that time. It was like a dead period, so it was a perfect time for it.
Dead period. And then, of course, you know, Quaresma was really respected back then.
Yeah.
You know, that was it. You know, people were very Catholic, and
yeah, that's why back then no dances would dance after midnight, no na terça-feira Carnaval, because it would become Ash Wednesday, and it was like very.
Yes, you know, sometimes they rolled over. There were stories of the renegades,
the rebels, yes.
The lights on until 5 a.m. You know, soon you start making the excuse that, you know, sun up is when it starts. You know? Because there were stories of that, you know. Sure.
But if we close in and specify just the music part, because that's a lot of the complaining I hear. I hear a bit of the pandeiro, the way the pandeiro is played. Maybe we could get into that. But the biggest complaint I hear is that people don't like the music that is being used for Carnaval in Terceira right now. And I've heard many people say, and I think the one that I think fits more the situation here is the fact that you mentioned it a bit, that these people remember the Carnaval from when they were teenagers before immigrating, and that's their vision of Carnaval. While on the island, they continued they continued the evolution, and the music became what the music of the time. Where here in the diaspora, it just became that music that they were listening to back then. How do you see that more modern? People say that ta 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 ta, or that more rhythmic music instead of that more romanticized mothers that they used to use back then. How do you see that?
So for me, I mean, they're welcome to do whatever they want because it's their tradition.
Of course, yes.
And like you said, they're moving forward because they're in Portugal. You know, there's not, you know, not forward. They're just going with whatever the times are. Because they're there. And you're right. When the immigrants came here, we became a snapshot of a time.
Well said, yeah.
But the immigrants also did evolve here. They just don't think they did. For instance, everybody started using electrical instruments when they got here because the halls were big. So these halls that were built in California, they were dance halls built in the 20s and 30s. that was the entertainment of the time, right? That in fact, when you go to Modesto, it's not the Portuguese Hall, it's the Modesto Ballroom.
Oh.
Turlock Ballroom. So Turlock's got two halls. They have the hall Nossa Senhora da Assunção that was built by the immigrants later, 1920s immigrants. That was the ballroom, the Turlock Ballroom. Till this day, it's still the Turlock Ballroom. Paramount Hall. It's not Paramount. It's Hines.
Yes.
Hines, because at that time Paramount was called Hines, California.
Oh.
The city changed names, right? But the hall stayed with that name, Hines TBS. People forget this. Most of the halls in California were established by that wave of immigration at the end of the 20th century, moving into the beginning of the 21st century. These halls were all built 20s, 30s. The Artesia Hall was built in 1930, I believe. First Festa in Artesia was 1927.
Yep.
And we may not even be the first of it, right? Like, there's reason to believe in evidence that at least a Festa de Espírito Santo or a Função or something to do with Espírito Santo was held what is now called Point Lobos Reserve in California, south of Carmel, in 1865.
Wow.
And there's already, I have the book, the picture of Half Moon Bay, 1872. So we know already for a fact, 1872, Espírito Santo was here. Right. So they're bringing over the traditions. There was another book, and I saw this, and I know who has it. I got to borrow it from them to study this. I think it was called The Portuguese in California.
Yes, I've heard that. That's recently, in the last maybe 10 years, it was written, right?
Yeah. And there's like pictures of Torjacarda in there.
Wow.
Right. In the 30s. That makes sense because that's the easiest one. You're in the San Joaquin Valley, Torjacarda.
Vacas e touros não faltavam.
Right. We know for sure, like the first Gastine Festa was 30 or 35. It was 35, 1935. Not the Espírito Santo,
da festa de setembro, Nossa Senhora das Mulheres. Gastinhos, Nossa Senhora das Mulheres.
Yeah, as Gastinhas. And we know like Shahua sang in the first one.
Wow.
And Tulu sang the second. And then Shahua and Tulu in the third. And then, they were always like the Woodstock of Korea. Right, because everybody joined there, so you're going to go get the heavy hitters to go there. So we know that tradition is moving, and so it makes sense. Like I told you, that they would do Danças de Carnaval, in that time, but probably one-offs.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't groups; it was like one-offs, like you just said.
So it is an evolution with music. Like you were saying, because it has to. It's just the people of their times are just going to put their imprint on it. I mean, I feel also part of the reason why the music of Carnaval stayed that way was because of Salazar. This is just a personal opinion to everybody else.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
These are my opinions based on history and what I've seen. So no one throw tomatoes at me.
No.
You're free to your opinion.
Yeah.
But I know Salazar, in Censura, held that traditionalism together for a long, long time. I'm not sure of Salazar's reign in Portugal. I want to say it's probably, 50-ish years, 40 to 50 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's like 2 generations. So that's going to get passed down. It's landlocked. A friend of mine, John Barcelo, said, it's like we got stuck in ember. When you see the mosquito in that ember, and snapshot were a Polaroid, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I always felt when in the old country, Terceira, they kind of make fun of us for this. They say, vocês estão atrasados, whatever. It's like, no, you guys should be seeing us as a Polaroid. You guys missed out on the history of you by ridiculing us and not grabbing the ember and putting it in the museum, right? No one there cared to come here and grab our pictures and our tapes and listen to our stories. Not a single one.
That's true.
Now they are, but it's maybe a little bit too late. And even now, there's very few people doing that. They keep going forward, and that's fine. Some people, you got to move forward, but the historians and the archivists are also important to the story.
Of course.
And so they forget, like the pandeiro, the pandeiro came because of a Brazilian, right? The pandeiro went to Brazil from the Azorians and the Portuguese, and then it went back because the Brazilians,
Yeah.
it's inarguable. And we know that Danças Pandeiro happened in Terceira, 1936, because the guy that originated it was interviewed by that José Orlando Britão. So that's in the book as well. And he and Toulouse wrote the first Dança de Pandeiro in Vila Nova. His name was Joaquim Faropa. Joaquim Salles. Nickname was Faropa.
O apelido.
O apelido era o Faropa. And then the 3 years later, the concept of the ratão came in 1939, right? So we're already seeing Espiada and danças kind of coming from summer, right? Coming over to creeping up, and dança de Espiada being not sure how it was back then, but I imagine they're just doing this type of thing, and maybe they're doing more machinhas. That's how I imagine it. And then before long, they got the Flauta and they're doing whatever that dance is. And the evolution, danças were sung, all cantada.
Yeah, Evolua assumed, yes. I have some tapes of that, yeah.
Yeah. So my theory or my gut feeling is when Danças Pandeiro showed up in the 30s, we know Danças Espiada were still sung at that time. Because just to give a time capsule, Miranda Pereira was 1936. And when I look at all the archives of Assuntos that Orlando Britão collected, I have that book as well, and I've read through a lot of those Assuntos. You see, like Altares started to write about kings and queens and historical figures, and I feel like when you look at their Assuntos, they really start to expand that theme, right? It wasn't just kind of a loosey-goosey type of thing. Like the first dança that I was saying that had that structure was 1917, called A Dança da Ana, and it was just simply, it was a one-page assunt, and it's simply, the daughter or the mestre used to sing in the assunt, going to ask the daughter of somebody, in the assunt to get married. The essential tolo vai pedir a mão. Yeah, exactly. That type of thing. And it's literally just that exchange, and then they're out. That text still exists.
Wow.
So, but then you start to see it evolve, danças about soldiers or danças about, I imagine Cantoria had something to do with that, right? Because the first assuntos a lot of times were cantadores.
Yeah.
So they had a little bit more understanding of history, so they started to write more about that. So I figure that had influence.
And you said you that first text that you said you wrote, that's written, that you read, was it rhymed right away? Was assuntos were always rhymed?
But yeah, it was rhymed. Well, because they were sung. So,
yes, exactly. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Quadras and stuff.
Yeah,
so Carnaval's always been moving. And sometimes because we don't have this archive, I think a lot of the immigrants don't know this history. History has not been explained. There hasn't been. I really feel like that book would have been a great book as a film, not as a book, a documentary film. About these changes. So fast forward, you get to Salazar, and he's trying to keep the national thing of Estado Novo, censura, and what you can say, what you can't say, and the music. They did it too back then. They got music from the discs, because all those songs were just songs like from conjunto típicos.
Yeah, I was about to say música pimba, música popular, yeah.
The música popular, but it was also because of that time, that constraint.
And do you think the piadas, like Carnaval is known for those indirects, those piadas.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with a censura in the Salazar time?
They were not allowed at all to say that type of stuff. Stuff would get slipped by because sometimes people weren't there, but I have heard stories of where there were people stationed to keep track,
to watch.
Yeah. But I have seen cantigas in those assumes that criticize the government. And so I wonder if, depending who was watching, back then it was different. It wasn't, it was on the street.
Yeah.
Dança Pandeiro was specifically invented to go into the palheiros, into small spaces, right? Dança de Espiada would sometimes have 12 pairs. Again, you can see, if you know this, you can see the history of it looking like marchas and stuff.
Yeah.
The Pandeiro, from my understanding, there was in Vila Nova a gentleman who taught capoeira. He had gone to Brazil, came back, taught capoeira, and then brought back the Pandeiro. You can kind of, people started playing like this. But I
see the influence.
I have seen video of these older, I don't know where I saw it. My dad had one, and it could have been a guy named José de Belém, who was from Algualva, one of the better meshes of his time. And if it was him, I'm not sure if it was him, but I remember seeing this video from Canada, and he played Pandeiro like this.
Oh.
Right? So that you already can kind of make that connection.
Yeah. It's basically a confirmation of where that influence came from, basically.
Maybe not.
No, see.
I imagine it became, that became, more percussive, because now we see it also evolving back a little bit into this.
Yeah.
Brazilians, but now doing it with the Pandeiro upright.
Yep.
So it's almost like it's going full circle.
And we've had like 3 different eras of Pandeiro playing, I guess would be the way to say it. And my father doesn't lose an opportunity to always remind me. But there was like a moda antiga, which is the one where they go down, and then there was the one I learned, which was the 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then there's now the that's how they used to call that a moda da Gualva or whatever. That comes from the capoeira. That comes from the capoeira. Oh, you see?
I think both are fine. Both
it fits the music for me. It fits the music. It doesn't have that elegance maybe of the 1 2 3 and that style, but I think it fits well the rhythm that they're using nowadays.
Yeah, for me, like I said, what we were talking about, like the evolution, they're remembering what they remember, right? But because that's what was part of their era, what was popular.
Yeah.
But now, things are moving on there. Now, for me, from a purely musical standpoint, I don't like the music being played fast because I don't think the Pandeiro looks graceful.
That's what I meant to say in elegance. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a criticism.
No.
My personal taste.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. The way I feel about it is just, it's not as graceful, because when you slow down the music, you're giving the body parts time between beats to move. You're also giving your body time to sway. And so when you see the 2 tempos, the 2 times hand, body, hand, body. When I saw like doing this,
yes, very good example.
There were some moments where you could see his body just really get so musical, right? And how light-footed he was. Some things I also didn't like. I thought it was much too exaggerated, for my taste. But you can see the sway, and to me there's a beauty in the sway, right? Instead of being just rigid, and that's fine. I mean, you see someone that comes up and do that, that's fine. I think, if everybody comes up doing the same thing, it gets boring.
Yeah, of course.
Show what they've got. I'm looking for musical and grace, and from here, I was not a structured meshed. I was when I used to do it this way. Once I started going this way, it became self-expressive. It's like doing whatever I want here, and I don't care what you have to say.
And it was just you expressing yourself, yeah.
And I'm thinking in real time what I'm going to do. It was no faults were the same. It was, you would probably never see me do the same fort twice.
Wow. See,
Because
that's very interesting.
I had my moves down. I would learn new moves. I would study other tapes. I'd watch somebody, and if I saw something unique, I'd be like, "Oh, what's that?" And then roll tape back, and then grab my pandeiro, and then I'd break it down that way. But then once I broke it down, I tried to form it like Play-Doh, and tried my best to allow myself to be more soulful with the pandeiro. Right, and the old timers don't like that. Like that the beats have different sounds. I do. I feel that expression. Like if I'm playing the 1 and the 3 beat harder than the 2 and the 4, right? Right. Even with the way I play pandeiro, I started to really to change it up, not play the same. You can go, pop, pop, pop. Right, that's as basic as
the bass, yeah.
And then you can vibrar, which is pop, 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 right? And then there's the other one where it's the classic,
yeah.
So I just started doubling that one, and then playing the beats backwards. So doing stuff like that, where just
playing with it.
Play with the music and play with the volume and the dynamics, and do the same thing with the body parts. And I tried to do that,
and then put it together.
Yeah, as best I could.
Wow. That's super interesting. That's because that's totally another way of how I saw it and how I learned, and that's what I love about having conversations like these. Is you see all these different ways of getting to the same final point. And since we're talking about traditional and more modern and espada, bailings, pandeiro, I would like to get into one thing that I really loved that you see. I don't want to talk out of my ass here. I'm pretty sure you were organizing it, but if not, you were definitely in the organization. But it's you guys went outside the box in this, and I don't know if you see where I'm going, but with uma dança de espada that you guys made called Os Porcos Também Chorem. And I absolutely loved it. My dad, which I was very surprised because my dad, is a very purist and traditionalist, and he absolutely was laughing the whole dança, and he absolutely loved it. So I'm sure you got a bit of flack for that also. Tell us a bit the story of how this dança dos Porcos Também Chorem came about.
So that's my that's continue evolution, right? That was me deciding I can evolve too. I used to get criticized that I was too traditional, and I liked it. It's just what I like, and the music, like we were talking about the music, and like I like it a little slower. And the reason why I like the modas antigas, just to finish on that before we go to get into this, I always say, Brazil's sound is samba for Carnaval, and it has been forever. And those people, they love samba. Eles gostam tanto de samba que eles andam a sambar todo o ano. Okay? And it's samba, and more samba. And sometimes the speed changes, but it's always that soul. And that's a country of 300 million people. They still samba. How is it an island of 50,000 people are incapable of maintaining some resemblance of their tradition? I feel we Portuguese people have a problem with that. I don't know if it's because of the Salazar thing, and everybody just thinks, well, you just got to keep moving forward. And I think, eventually, if you move forward, you might realize you're just going in a circle and things come around because there's only so many possibilities. And so I feel like the old music morphing is okay, but I kind of like Carnaval sound, like country, right? Yeah. Don't tell me playing a country western band and bring out some big band.
Yeah.
I feel Carnaval is a genre. And so, but then I decided, I can be progressive. I can do that too. It's not like that hard. I have some musical training. I took music theory and all that. But some of my favorite comedy is satire.
Yes.
And things like Airplane, The Naked Gun, right? The Three Stooges, the Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers really got me into language, trocadilhos. I started to get really into that, like comedy with language, not just physical and slapstick.
Yes.
So I had my buddy in Biscoitos who passed away, Muitos Dias. He and Santa Maria, another friend of mine who passed away, they were really good at those trocadilhos. I always found their writing was just fantastic and capable of going another level. Like they knew how to maintain the tradition, but bring in, they had the piada encoberta. They could also be very direct with their, but they also knew how to do a piada encoberta. They were very good at reinventing things and going, trocadilhos. Right now, I can't think of one. I mean, I can think of it, but I don't remember it in rhyme. And so I asked him. I said, "Hey, I want to make a dança de piada." It was always an idea I had, and I wanted to grab all my favorite danças that I remember as a kid, grab all the pieces, and make one story, right? And then make a satire of it, right? And kind of reflect back what we saw. Because I felt that danças de pandeiro and violins evolved. We became better at that because it's easy to do comedy. But piada is hard because you're trying to do drama. It's hard to believe the drama when somebody's just like, they're crying, but it's like, it's a fake cry, And so in a way, it's almost counterintuitive. If you're trying to make the cry look real, it looks bad. It's almost better doing just the mimic of the cry, right? So we know it's like a technique. Then you have to actually cry. It's like, bro, we can't see your tears. It's not a real, and it just kind of looks like a pranto in vision. Yes. And not everybody cries. Nossas piadas became like, oh my God, people are just crying for everything. Not every life people cry. Some people have emotional fortitude and can hold themselves together and everything. So I thought, what if I did this? I never imagined it would get done. He liked the idea, and so the assumed idea came from a dança de piada that was done in Canada, which was done more as an allegory, right? João Mendonça did a dança de piada where he's a guy whose wife goes blind.
Yes.
Operation to take, and it was more like an allegory, right? But I said, what if we did that literally? Like, eye transplants, and then I thought, well, maybe a human to human eye transplant, maybe that's maybe too not silly enough. I gotta let people know that this is absurd that they're gonna see. We did the pig because it's traditionally and I thought, and then it started backwards that way. Like, well, what happens? Like, how do they get this? Well, the pig gets kidnapped because in danças, what happens? There's always danças about someone getting kidnapped, someone, something happening in the family, a tragedy. So I have to invent a family tragedy, but not something that hit home. I have to invent something that's so absurd that people could watch this and know it's absurd, right? And see what we're doing. And so he liked the idea, and I said, but this has to be right, like traditional. Like I told him, you can't do it in Deixas. This has to be like the old days, like quadras, because we got to go up there and talk, right? Like
a moda da dança de piada, but exaggerated.
Exactly, very stoic and the funny thing would just be in what we're saying and the fact that we believe we're serious in the dance. And I told everybody, I said, look, you can't make it. At first people were trying, I said, no, this is not funny. It is funny. I said, yeah, but you don't know it's funny.
Exactly.
We have to play this straight, as
serious as possible. Yes.
My paper, I bent it maybe too far. I was actually doing the impersonation of a few people, few things.
Yes, because you were just to put people in context, you were the filho.
Yeah, I was not comfortable playing, like a mentally ill person, like well done. I felt like that's not a good thing, right? Like I didn't want to ridicule.
It comes from the quote in the movie Tropic Thunder, no?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to. I didn't want to be ridiculed, so I had to kind of make it a little bit outlandish.
Okay.
I look back and I think, maybe if I just boxed it in more, it might have been better to my taste. But no one seemed to care. I think everybody just went with it.
I think it fit perfectly. I think.
So, oh, thank you, but we're always our own worst critic.
Yeah, of course,
So,
of course.
So of course, and I was not supposed to play that part. I had asked 2 other people to play that part, and when they couldn't do it, I said, "Well, we don't have a dancer. I don't have a person to play this part, and I don't know who to go now." And so David Costa was like, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I said, "I don't do papéis. I know my role. My role is violão and pandeiro. E ainda mesmo assim, tem gente que diz que eu devia ter ficado em casa." Right? So then, because my type of comedy is different than the immigrants. I'm Three Stooges, Marx Brothers. I have that Jerry Lewis. Love Jerry Lewis, Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey. So I just let it fly, and I thought, well, we'll see how this happens. And yeah, was it well received? I think there's a lot of confusion.
At the beginning, maybe when people started watching, and
yeah, they thought this was for real.
Mm.
And then, but the younger people caught on very fast. They locked in right away because we all grew up with those movies, slapstick movies, right? A lot of slapstick. And I told everybody, you guys have to be straight, and we'll allow for a little bit of slapstick where we can. And then, of course, I had that thing with the silent part. I always wanted to make a silent danza, right? Just everything synchronized to music, no talking. But I thought, well, maybe that's too dangerous. People will be like, for a whole dance, that might be so boring. So I decided to just start with 1 scene or 2 scenes, and I had to edit. I don't remember now the song. I think we used maybe Sleeping Beauty by Tchaikovsky. And I chopped it up a little bit. And I had the scene written based on where the song was going, and that took a lot of rehearsing, because I told the guy, when you hear this, you have to be already here, and you have to start this part of the acting. So that took a while, but he caught on fast. The guy that was the villain, caught on real fast. He was, after a while, he just blended right. He had the sense of humor too. The younger guy, he knew exactly where this was going.
It's kind of a bit of a feel. The scene you're describing is kind of a bit of a feel of the Charlie Chaplin kind of style, like running around while the music's playing, doing their stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It was basically that 1920s, 1930s. So yeah, there was a performance in Tulare. We were at Plot TDS, and some guy just got up, pulled his pants up, and right out. I was this close to improvising, right? I was this close to saying, olha, a Coltina está acostumada a dança, and from there. But I knew if I did that, I might mess up the other guys.
Yeah,
I have to be very careful. Certain things, I allowed for improv in rehearsal. That's good, because you don't know what comes out.
Yeah.
But sometimes on the day, I would tell people, if you're not confident in your Portuguese, and you're not confident in the person you're improving with, don't improv.
Yeah.
Because you're going to throw that person off, and then they get caught. Me, I just go with the flow. I think my ADD is good for that. You go off in a direction. I think people have already noticed by our conversation, like,
yes. Yeah.
So it's a wild ride when 2 people with attention deficit get together.
Yes, it is. But that's what makes it interesting also. So
it's a fun ride, man. Wild ride.
And some things that David did, like when he would be sweating and she would bring in the bottle of water with the towel, and he would all these little details faz tudo parte the final product. No, these are things that you worked at rehearsal.
Well, I would see these things. Believe it or not, I saw like somebody bring out a towel once, and I was that old Portuguese going, hell, and wiping down. I said, we're putting. I don't remember who now. It was just a kid. And then, I said, we got to work that in. And I thought, well, how can we take that a step further? The wine tasting, like having,
Yes.
and now I regret not having those mates come on more,
Mm.
or, pamper him more and get really, crazy. And then the Hopa, I actually, Carla Rocha, Tanya Costa, and Cindy Enge, I said, hey, this is a dancer from like the 80s. You guys remember what they were like? Just go watch dances and come up with something. Because at that time, I was really burning out on Carnaval. I was wearing a lot of hats to do all of this. And I thought, this is one less thing off my plate.
Yeah.
And so they brought back, David. The reason why he was in gold, the color scheme was because teal was very big in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. You watch stuff from the 80s, teal was all over the map. And then they decided to go gold with David because it was an Oscar, like the Oscar awards.
Yes.
So that was the whole, with the super long tails and
yes.
real big hat. We got to, because every year some mesh came with a bigger hat and a taller hat. And I said, this hat's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Well, David, you got to look like you mean business up there. And then David, man, he took off with it. He had me going. Because he did stuff on the day no one knew he was going to do.
Oh.
So, yeah. That was the funnest danza because I had people helping me. And it took off a lot of pressure. And fun bus trip, fun camaraderie. Everybody was in on the joke. And, Dave was like, well, what do you want? I said, dude, you're the mesh. You write music. You write your mash. I'm burning out here. Just go. Michael Costa asked me, hey, you want me to take care of the instrumental guard? I said, yes, please. That's one, so I divvied it out, but everybody was in on the joke. Loved this because it was all people our age that loved it.
Yep. A lot of people that didn't participate in Carnaval, like my godfather, Jojo King, that was his only dance he participated. He still talks to me to this day about not the dance itself, but the time he spent with his friends in practicing on the bus and everything. He goes, it's one of the funnest times of my life.
Yeah.
So,
I told people, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I thought you were finishing I thought you were wrapping up. I had told him specifically, said, hey, man, you got to grow the old chops.
Yes. Yes. I remember the pictures. Yes.
I told everybody, bro, you all got to let your sideburns. I think like Kevin Garcia grew the sideburns with the biker mustache.
Biker mustache.
I tell people no contact. If you wear glasses, you got to wear the glasses. We just came out of 1984.
Yeah. Like you were stuck in time in the 1980s. Yeah.
And that was, with Zeke and everybody, we had such a good time because it was friends. It was a lot of my friends, and we were all in the joke. And I think because it was all separated and people wanted to actually make this dance, see what this dance was going to come out. It was no longer because when we started, it was a lot of young guys who just wanted to go on a danza, to go on the trip and have a good time.
Yeah.
And back then I was a real hard because I was dealing with, but people don't realize this, I'm here 21, 22, being sayador of 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. So I have to be on top of them.
Yeah.
And so like you, I'm your friend, but I'm also your dad's friend. So you're going in the danza, but your dad's pulling me to the side going, hey, you, Michael, he's wondering if you're doing well, if you're, giving me a hard time, right? The whole thing.
Yeah, yes.
So I had that pressure, had pressure from the parents telling me, hey, Artesia doesn't do bad dancers. How's my kid performing? Is my kid giving you a hard time? Right? Because these were younger. I said, no, everything's, rolling smooth here, man. These guys are great. I luckily had a very talented group of guys. Our first dance was 98. That was our breakout year. Before then, some people were in some things. But, being young guys, they're always messing around.
You had to pull them back in sometimes.
Yeah. And what they didn't realize is at that time, our parents were at our age where they were burning out a little bit. It was hard to get extroida. They were turning people down. They were burned out. It was hard to figure out how you're going to do this. The costs were rising, and you have young guys trying to pay. So I try to make everything within $100. Go to the J.C. Penney catalog, buy calça e camisa, instead of using a seamstress, using glue to glue a galong on there, right?
Yeah.
And, some people didn't have people to make their clothes. So I'm there, coming home from work, and I was like, hey, I don't know how to sew. I got to just do this. My mom's making mine and my brother's hopers, and then she's chipping in, and other people were chipping in, but it was a difficult time. There was kind of a downslope in the late 90s for Carnaval here in California. It was a transition period. That's where the group phase, right? The group, we can talk that in more depth, but the process of Carnaval eventually went into a group phase and then left that group phase into the weekend thing.
Could you elaborate on that? So maybe I understand you better.
Well, how about
like what is from the group phase to the?
I'll get to that, just because we were talking about the dança that os esportes também choram. Essentially, that's how it all rolled out, was my love of the satire. And by the time everybody started getting work, right, because I had dealt with those guys and everything, I was a better ensaiador, a little bit more relaxed. I was also older, and just like kind of giving up on certain things, and it was truly a great time. And what happened was everybody was in on the joke. They loved. I always tried to get everybody in on the dança, buy into what we were doing.
Yes.
And so, by the way, I'd present the material. So that's how it was. Hit or miss. In conclusion, it was hit or miss. Young people loved it. They got it. They knew exactly where we're going. I think the people with the more advanced sense of humor, not advanced, but that sense of humor got it. I think there were some people who didn't get it, didn't understand, who were like, well, wait a minute. Why is it started off well? What happened? And they didn't understand where we were going. But I feel like it might be one of those dances in hindsight, when people go watch it, they'll go, okay, now we got it. And so there were bits of other dancers in that dance. The main idea was that João Mendonça theme, the eyes. But I said, we're going to take that there. There was also a dança de espiada from Tulare. It was very good dança de espiada. Abel da Costa used to write most of dança de espiadas in the 80s. And there was that scene with he's asking forgiveness. I literally took the cantigas from that dança and put it there, because that was one of those dança de espiadas that people remember. I was trying to do the memorable things.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had like Margarida Gomes, who sang a lot in danças.
Yep.
That's what it was, right? Like we sing a song about everything. But actually Margarida sings very well. Very good singer. Carla was not a singer by any means, so we couldn't have her try to sing for real. We had to, I told her, you just have to kind of butcher this. I think some people took that as a pot shot on Margarida, which it wasn't. However, she was very graceful. And she came up to me in San Jose and she said, Roberto, isto foi uma dança bem bonita.
See, that means a lot.
Yeah, it did mean a lot, because she did a lot for Chino. And
oh yeah, I remember they used to do four group. That group used to do 4 dances, and we brought them once to Montreal, and very well rehearsed, very muito pesados, and very well, very entertaining. So
she was also the seamstress for the first Chino dança.
Oh.
She was instrumental in the first Chino dance in 1973. That's another conversation.
Yeah. So that was os esportes também chorem. And you were saying about the groups that I didn't understand a bit. The group phase, and then that second phase that you were talking about.
So yeah, when dancers started off, no one knew people were making dancers. So somebody made dance and just performed it locally.
Okay.
Then 68 is the first one that we can remember, and that was done in summer. That was in Tulare. A guy named Manuel Simeões, who's from Portugal. He's in Portugal now, I think. And Agostinho Mendes, who's from Lages.
I've heard that name.
Yeah. another one of the good mestres. And according to the story, they were playing soccer for Tularangrense, and Lucia Noya had a program, radio program, and I believe she asked them, or proposed the idea of making us Carnaval. So not sure which one came first, the chicken or the egg, but they were talking about it, and they were like, how are we going to get an assumed? And that guy Nils Milch had a really wicked memory and the ability to improv on stage. He was incredible. He was one of the most forward types of Carnaval people for his era. He remembered a dança he was in from Portugal. He wrote it out, filled out the rest where he didn't remember because he could write cantigas. And it was called A Rosa e a Joana. That was 1968. They performed it, I think, for the radio. I've got pictures of that, but I have no recording. And then what they decided was the next year, they decided to do a dança that would travel in 1969. So that dança is probably the first dança traveling to other communities.
Oh.
And that was called Os Católicos e Apostólicos or something like that. And Agostinho Mendes was the mestre, António Parreira was the ratão, and they came to Artesia. And I have an audio recording of that dança that I found in an archive someone gave me. And then the people in Artesia thought, hey, we got to make a dança. So Francisco Bertão started organizing a dança. He's from Ramin, and they started organizing in 69, and they did Os Leiteiros in 1970. And that dança started, I think, going even further, right? They didn't just do the close, they went Artesia, Chino, they did Artesia, Chino, Tulare, Visalia, Turlock. They'd go wherever, people would call them up and they'd go. And I think they traveled even after Carnaval, because what happened was with that dança, people worked dairies. So they couldn't just take all these days off. So people would drop out of the dança. So there were two versions of it. There was the Carnaval version that came out. And then as they got phone calls to go perform, people couldn't go. So they would just get, ringers to go in there. So suddenly you had like Antônio o apelido dele, Antônio Vindima from Biscoitos, was the first ratão, but then he couldn't go anymore. So then Nos Santos, was cantador, was the ratão, right? And so people started coming in and out, version 1 and version 2. I didn't know that until later. And then, they would perform throughout Quaresma in different communities. And of course, that time they still performed in Páscoa. And so at that time, you were just taking that dança, and that's it. So what they started doing was to make the night longer, they would perform. They'd have the group musicians tocar modas regionais after, right? And they just have like a little cluet or something, a different cluet with the calças from the dance or whatever, and they perform for people to dance, chamarritas, stuff like that. Then I know for Artesia specifically, Manuel Ivcota and his band used to play for the dancers. And you started getting electrified music. And then what would happen is after the dança, you'd have a conjunto, but like a conjunto, like we think, right? Like a Portuguese rock band, electrified band. And they would play after the dancers. And then like in 77, Margarida started to make groups with multiple dancers, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And then that became the thing, right? Now, you didn't go out for Carnaval. Carnaval was home and your local place, at least in Artesia and Chino. For Carnaval, we danced in Artesia and Chino. But for weekends before, you went on a tour. You would go like one weekend to Hilmar or Turlock or whatever hall was open, and you would try to strategically place yourself where you're going to get the most people. So, Tulare was one of them. The Turlock area was another one, but you may not perform in Turlock. Dancers performed in Turlock, but then there were years they didn't. They performed like in Livingston. We performed in Livingston, Hilmar, Oakdale. Then the Bay Area people they perform like in Sacramento's Manteca. So that's what I meant. There was a little
Okay.
decentralized.
Oh, yeah.
On weekends, and Carnaval
Oops, wait.
lasted a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, Carnaval started, sometime in January, and you'd perform, and sometimes perform after Carnaval.
Mm-hmm.
Já era os fins de semana.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Then, it started to consolidate. So about 96, I believe Antonio Martins, Calhoca,
Mm-hmm.
Chris Calhoca,
Yeah.
Paul, and them,
From San Jose, right?
Mark,
Yeah.
He had been highly involved with Newark, and he was starting. San Jose started their group in 84. He started, I think, in 87. He started doing the whole package, like 5 dances, right? Like coming in with the show, right? But he started to hold back one danza, I think about 95 or 96. He started to hold back one danza to just do the clubs in San Jose, the restaurants, something like that, right? And that started to pick up. About 98, about 98, you start to see that transition, right? Where groups would make 2-3 dances, and slowly they're going back to that one danza model or 2, and then going out because there was other dancers to cover the tracks, right? Back to charge money, $5 at the door to help with expenses because buses and all that.
Of course.
About the late 90s, we started transition. Tony Nunes of Tulare is one that told me that. He said, "Hey, have you been to San Jose?" And I thought, what's going on in San Jose? When we go, but we go like on a weekend. He goes, "Oh yeah, they're starting to do like the clubs and everything." And I think that started, I want to say that started 95 or 96. Tony told me this about 98. And so 99, we started going up there. And then, Carnaval was, I felt like in that era was a good era of friendship. We networked a lot. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it makes perfect sense.
You'd call me and I'd be like, "Yeah, come down. We'll dance here, and then we'll trade off with you, and then maybe we'll go together over here." It eventually took the burden off of us having to make 2-3 dances.
Yes, which helped you guys out a lot too. And in the late 90s there, in a typical dance year, how many atuações would you do with that dance?
So at that time, San Jose was the big place, and there was one in the Central Valley, and it was actually Stevenson. You might do 4. I remember we'd do Nova Aliança, and across the street was Banda Portuguesa. There would be like Casa de Benfica. We'd go to Newark Sport Club, and then we'd drive to the Valley and close out in Stevenson. So sometimes you would do those 5 in a night. That time. But around that time, I started to do that in Tulare. We tried to, our group tried to go there Friday night before Saturday, because it's a midway point, and we would rent out Tularenguense and just rent it for nossa conta. Now I would invite dancers to come. It first started actually in 90. I want to say 96 or 97. It was probably 97. We got invited to a dinner. This guy named Serpa used to do a dinner on Friday of Carnaval there. And so we went to perform there. So then in 99, we started going there on Friday. I started renting the hall, just requesting it. And then I tried to get like Hanford to open up, but they always seem to be rented out. And it took a while for us to get going. Then like 2000, we tried again, and Hanford was still rented out, but it started to pick up steam. By 2002, I had already brought 5 dancers. There was us, there was Johnny Martins had a danza, Charles Smith and his group had a danza, and then there was 2 from Newark. So that started to open up. And then eventually the Tulare people started, I think, taking over that. And it was at that time we decided to there became a disorganization there. And the thing was with California, the distances destroyed.
Yes.
for people who don't know, we spend more time on a bus than the actual
on stage.
stage. And so what happened was David Costa, who had organized the Flamenca Festival or helped to organize that, thought, we should do this as well. So he sent out the letters and we all combined. Because what happened was sometimes you'd get to a place and it would get so packed and you couldn't have a spot to dance and you have to leave, or else you're going to pay another $3,000 for a bus. So that became a reality, that difficult. So we had to leave. So we decided, why don't we do something to try to organize this? Didn't go over well first time, because no one likes. Everybody had the impression that we were trying to tell people what to do, and how people are. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yes, of course.
So, and that wasn't our intent. Our intent was a brainstorm. Like, these are all the possibilities. What do you think? They took it as we were like telling
people what to do.
They missed out the part of what do you think? And then just kind of became a little bit of the meeting turned into one of those, Portuguese meetings with a lot of hands and elevated voices.
And everybody pulling to their side. Yes.
Exactly. So there was a compromise, and they decided to at least, because there's a lot of, for sure, there was a lot of people who didn't want that because they had their, connections. They could always get certain time slots. So they had zero interest in relinquishing, yielding to fairness, right? There was no, Artesia came up, we came up, right? And this is just how I saw it. I'm not trying to be negative here, but
no,
we would yield to them. Like, tell us what you need us to do, because we're coming here to your community now that you guys are organizing this. But when they'd come to Artesia, we had to yield to them again. And it became very unfair. We would start to have to dance at 2 a.m. So we would dance at 2 and 3 a.m. up there and down here.
And
So, e também às vezes levarem uma pancada.
Claro.
Dança or on the side. And this is the first time I can really defend myself. Later, all these years later. So it was never ill will, it was never malintent, but
no,
that was my first taste of acrid, dark Carnaval. And, that was kind of the beginning of my detachment for Carnaval too. I started having a bad taste in my mouth. You just want to do what's best. What I wanted was, and David was, that all dancers, because I wanted more dancers coming to Artesia as well.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if we did this more like Saudade? But to do, we have to be organized.
Yeah.
What if we can open up as many halls as possible? Every dancer dance at those halls, because that's the
goal,
right? And everybody see as many dancers. So, because what happened was we got to a hall once, and there were some dancers going on stage that had already performed in Gastine like a week or two before. And they were, they had their spot, but we just rolled up, and we thought, well, can we take one of your spots, right? They had and they were kind of like, well, no, we have our spot. And I'm like, yeah, but we can't stay till 7. We got to go home, right? Like, and so the people that were there had already seen their dancers, and there was some confusion there. Before the confusion could really take off, I said, hey guys, let's get on the bus and go and just leave it. Like, we're fine. Everything's going to be fine. I did leave also some recados myself, but I am Portuguese as well.
Yes. E faz parte do Carnaval também.
Yeah. Before I got on the bus, I gave a couple of caneladas too, and then get out before I
yeah. Sometimes things need to be said.
That's right.
But you're talking about the burnout that you had of Carnaval, and I don't want to take up too much time. We already have about 90 minutes of conversation, so we'll have to redo this another time with maybe elaborate on country, because you also play guitar, you're also involved in other stuff, but than Carnaval. But I wanted to concentrate this conversation on Carnaval because you have so much to say about it. And I would like to talk about going to Terceira and with for Carnaval. You did that once. I know you did it once for sure, but is that the only time you did it? Yeah, you went to Carnaval
I did Saudade
with the dance?
I've been to Saudade 3 times.
Oh, 3 times.
So, yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't your first experience, but you had been away from Carnaval for a while when you guys went to Terceira in 2016, which was also one hell of a beautiful dance, well structured. Well, everything was taught about, and you went to go play. You played banjo, if I'm not mistaken, in that dance.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after that, I remember I went 4 times to Carnaval, 3 in a dança. In 2003, we went, and then the next year, 2004, I was mestre of biscoitos.
Oh,
and then
a dance there.
Of a dança there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then
how was that?
Oh, that was awesome because I just went in someone's dança, and that's even better. And I just rolled up knowing the cantigas, rolled up, that dança was a very good dança that year. Biscoitos was very strong at that time. The Moinhos was probably writing very well. Rui Melo was doing the music. Carlos Dias was at the top with that character. And that for me was like the Super Bowl, right? And for me, it was good because the year before we took a dança, but it wasn't very good. It was passable, it was just another dança. But there was a lot of logistic problems with that dança that that really started my downfall a little, Carnaval. And that's when I knew like I need to get away from the dark side of the Carnaval. And I was letting my tongue fly too much. I was letting my feelings be known a little too much. So I had to, but that felt good. It was like a break. And that's when I knew, I can break away. And I started to just break away, chip away slowly. And until, Os Ricos Também Sofrem was the last one I organized.
Yeah. And that, Os Porcos Também Choram was what year, if you remember?
2010.
2010. So that was your last dance. And then 6 years later, you got a call to participate in this dance with God rest his soul, John Martins and João Mendonça and o Silva. Eu acho que também era aquele que puxou mais with Patrick, right? With one of those 3 brothers there that they usually are.
Oh man, his name's on top of my tongue. But yeah, that year, and but before that, I had gone back east as well with Zayenge.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't remember that part. Yes,
the year before, yeah. So that kind of rebooted a little bit of my involvement in Carnaval. And so, my involvement now is kind of more as consultant and, teaching people stuff and letting them do whatever they want.
Can you still sit down? Do you still enjoy Carnaval? Can you like sit down and enjoy a dance, or you're still not at that point yet?
Sort of.
Sort of.
I feel like I just kind of moved on. I can enjoy it, certain things of it, but I feel like it's just been done for me. I'm just older. I don't, I feel like, I don't know. Like I just been away from it. I still like going to the festa around it. That's what I loved about Carnaval there in Terceira. Going back to your point, when I was there with Schilch, it was like a monkey off my back. I felt like I had done what Terceira was always kind of like that dream thing. If you like being in a dança, and the year before didn't pan out very well. So to be in a good dança there and not have that pressure, it was good. And I got to see Carnaval differently and enjoy it differently. And then when I went there one year just to watch Carnaval, E Solange, that for me was like just like being able to breathe and enjoy Carnaval.
It's a totally different experience. I've done it too. I've been once with a dance, Laranjeira, and I've been once to see, just to Ep Solange, and it's a totally different experience, but both enriching in its own way.
Yeah, 2016 with John, great trip. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun. But it was more the trip and the camaraderie.
Yeah.
There was a point where I just thought, man, if I can get the hell out of here, I'd be very happy. Right? Like in my feet, my legs. And I think it was basically that last day we started off in Villa. And there was a point where I just was looking around and I thought, boy, if I can just get off this stage, never do this again, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Every little thing was starting to bother you.
Yeah. And so I did go one more year, the next year. But I mean, we did perform well. We had a good night that night. And I did enjoy the trip. So it wasn't like it was a bust. It was fantastic. Great experience, man. And I think some bonds were made. And so it was awesome. And then the next year I went and Kevin Coelho's dança. He was starting up his group, and he had asked me if I could play. He played a lot. He was my neighbor in Artesian. We played, so I went. And just by then, I just thought, oh my gosh, how many more years am I going to do this?
So you went up north?
Yeah, I played for a Hanford dança. At the time he was living in San Jose.
Okay.
The group Carnaval Sem Fronteiras.
Sim.
That was in the inaugural group.
So in a situation where you're getting a bit of a burnout of Carnival, you put yourself in driving hours and hours to go practice and rehearse. So that didn't help your burnout of Carnival.
Well, what it did was I love driving. I love road trips. So that was fine. Okay. And I met new people. The group is what a great group of people. Same as, dancers are like that. You make a lot of friends, and I have a lot of Carnaval friends.
That's a big part.
It was just more, I think, the age was getting there. I remember being in Nova Aliança. It was already 3 a.m, just tired. And I've got this banjo, and I'm sitting there, and the hall's half empty, and I just thought to myself, what am I doing on a stage, right? Like I realized I'd rather be out there watching this danza than being in it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Makes perfect sense to me.
And it wasn't anything to do with the danza.
No.
It was just I realized this is not my place anymore. This is not my place anymore. My place is over there. Have a piano, drink a beer, talk about it here on the podcasts, and then
when I'm fed up, I go home.
When I want to go home, I go home.
Yeah. Yes, I get that. Maybe because I had a few years in the last 35 years of Carnaval. Maybe I had a few years where nothing was done, that I didn't really ever reach that thing. I've definitely felt it at certain moments in certain dances where, not nowadays, because now I have fun. It's more of for me. I do it for me. When growing up, it was more for the other people, for my parents, for the ensaiadores, for the people in the hall watching. Where now I do it I just go up on stage for me. And I think those years away helped me put that into perspective. And especially going to Saudade in a dance with Laranjeira and seeing completely a different aspect of what it's supposed to be. That maybe put things in perspective, and that Carnaval, don't take it too seriously. Like it's important to have fun. And this is what the meaning of Carnaval is for people to laugh, have fun. And that's why I love it. And I still enjoy it today, is because I think about the practices. When I get excited about doing a dance, is aqueles iniciais, aquelas enreceadas, eu enrecear com tu e tu enrecear comigo, de improv, falar uma brincadeira ou indireto. Isso vai sair na dança. Disseste agora, mas isso vai sair na dança. Isso tem que sair. And it's all part of that. And that's not. It's one of the reasons why Carnival is one of my favorite traditions. But also another reason is what you say is the camaraderie. That's the big part of it. That's helped me fall in love with it even more, is the camaraderie and how it gets us close together. Once that those months are over and the Última Atuação happened, and you all hug each other and like, guys, congratulations, job well done. That's, even though pode ter tido erros or a mistake was made, but that doesn't matter. You had fun, people enjoyed, you guys are going back home satisfied. That's all we care. See you next year, guys.
Yeah, I agree. The rehearsals for me were the funnest. It was like painting a canvas.
Yeah,
because I would work on something one year. I always had the next year dança pretty much in my head. And I loved, it was like painting. It was like painting a canvas. We're going to get this going. The performances were it was fine for me. Whether, for instance, os ricos também sofrem. If whether people liked it or not, I didn't care. I was satisfied with that dança. People could have completely hated that dança.
Your vision, you got to the end of it, of your vision. That's what was important.
It was no one was going to tell me it was no good because I saw what it was good. We had another one called Batalha da Salga, which was a satire. That one too. No one's ever going to tell me that there's some things in it, some kinks in it, but for the most part, I was very satisfied with that. Contrary, sometimes, people praise me and I know I didn't do a good job. There's nothing you're going to convince me that I did a good job. If I didn't do a good job, I know I didn't do. No one knows me better than me.
Yeah, and like you said before, you're your own worst critic.
I'm, pretty self-aware of stuff, and and so I had a good time. It was a good time. I don't know if I miss it. Maybe I miss doing one more dance or two as a mestre, because for instance in Artesia now, after the dancers they all hang out in the bar, I'll pick up a pandeiro and do one fort. I'm still good for one fort.
Yeah.
But then everybody wants me to do a dança and be the mestre. Go, hey, well, as pernas, one fort is one thing.
Yeah. Yes.
I got a bad knee, so I'm not going to risk my health.
No, of course not. No. But you'd like that thing to go full circle, though.
Sure. I mean, it was fine. I mean, I'm sure I could probably just do it. People have said, well, you just go marching and you play, and then when it's time to do fort, I said, no. E quando chegar a esse ponto, eu já sou como 90. Right? You're just running me on the street. Everybody, the 90 is just like, oh man, get me out of here. And everybody's patting the bull in the back. It's like, dude, that means I'm done.
That means that's true.
I say when it's done. And
on your own terms. Yes. That's totally make perfect sense, and I empathize with that. Everybody wants to finish their stuff, and they're on their own terms, and I think it makes us more. It makes us more after we could look back at it with a better look. So thank you a lot, Robert, for taking time off your busy schedule to come on the podcast. It was a bit last minute, but you're always a soldier, and I appreciate that. Sure. I always appreciate our conversations when I go to Artesia, and they're always very interesting and very engaging and enriching. And once again, you showed it to me right here. And you guys should come down to Montreal, work on that, and come down to Montreal, make a visit, or maybe we'll meet halfway or something. Something's got to get done.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me to the show because, sometimes, you forget the past. And so these types of conversations helps me. It's a therapy. It helps me come back, right? It helps me.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the brighter side of Carnaval, and it's a healing thing. And it's nice to be recognized too. So
appreciate that.
It works out. Anytime you need me, let me know.
Appreciate that. We'll definitely get back on this and talk about more culture stuff, because you are very involved, or we're very involved, and you have a lot to say about our culture, and I know people want to listen. So thanks again for coming on. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget, share the page, Saudade Generation Tuga, like the podcast, comment, because it all helps out with the algorithm. I appreciate you guys, and join Generation Tuga. See you next time.
Ciao.
Those. Wrong one. I pushed it. Wrong button. There we go.
Are you still recording?
Wait, it's.
Tá ainda a gravar, ó.
Wait.